fastest hour on the radio. Speed City.
Good evening, gearheads. Welcome to Speed City. This is your Sunday night with Speed City. This is John Massagale sitting in the studio with Les Kaiser. How are you, Mr. Kaiser?
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Doing good, doing good. Man, what a good weekend for Indycar. We got to talk a lot about that.
Man, we got a lot to talk about because we've got
we
had a lot of racing to talk about. We're going to, of course, talk about the IndyCar race at the GMR GP at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we have a guest tonight. We have a young American driver named Tavella, and he has a very interesting story. He has kind of battled some odds, and now he's tied for the championship in the Formula 3, the FR Americas series. So we got him coming on. And we had another guest coming on, and he's not going to come on because, their win just got canceled due to a technical infringement. It was so
Any word on
heartbreaking.
what it was?
Underweight. Yeah,
Are we talking like 1 liter of fuel weight? Or
I don't know. I literally just got a text. Jordan Pepper was going to come on because they had a dramatic come from behind, huge win, last second win over Bill Auberlin.
I hear they've got an ace of a mechanic in that team.
They do. My son's there. But it was a really dramatic win, and I literally just got the text, so I don't know all the details. But it was a really fun race to watch. And so, but we're also going to talk about the Monaco Historics, because you might notice a voice missing tonight. Mr. Green, Jonathan, is at Monaco, and he's doing the commentary.
I was going to say, that's why all the knobs are turned down a little bit.
Exactly.
But hey, I'm still in somewhat of an afterglow of Miami, and we didn't get to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about Miami. So we're going to talk about the Monaco Historics. We're going to talk about MotoGP because they were at the French Grand Prix. That was a pretty exciting race today too. So we've got lots to talk about, and we are going to talk about Miami because, honestly, I still feel like I haven't caught up like my normal rhythm because we had such an amazing time. We were in Miami for 3 days, and it was really a pretty incredible sight.
Really was, and there's some news around Vegas, and a few folks speaking out. Max Verstappen had some interesting statements. We'll have to get into that later as well.
Yeah, well, I think I want to go right into Miami because, we got IndyCar to talk about here in a little bit, but I want to go into Miami because we went out there. Well, we tried to go out Thursday, and our flight got canceled, but we got out there.
From the time we passed TSA to the gate, that's kind of what we said.
That's true.
That's good HR appropriate response, yeah.
We did. We got checked in, and we were, you go through the line and take off your shoes and run all your stuff through the machine, and we got on the other side, picked up my phone, and said, flight canceled. And I was like, oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
So we ran around, tried to get another flight that night and said, all right, well, we'll just start again in the morning. So we got a flight out Friday. And Bob Varsha was meeting us out there anyway on Friday. So it all worked out. We rode in from the hotel to the hotel with him.
Yeah, we had the whole band there. I mean, we had Varsha, we had Jonathan, you, myself, and Chris Medlin on site as he's been all year so far.
Yeah.
So really a great attack in all directions. Got a lot of stories. Definitely go back and check out last week's show. There's some things we obviously won't get back into, but there's a lot of interesting things. Chip Ganassi was there.
Yeah.
Everybody expected Michael Andretti, which he was. But
Yeah.
Chip Ganassi was there, and Bob Varsha got a chance to speak to him.
Yeah, and man, if you heard the show last week, we really apologize. We had Michael Andretti, and our microphone settings were not right. And I do want to just have to go over and summarize that again because basically he said two really important things. Number one, they're spending money, they're hiring people, so they're already going. And number two, he said, as long as they get a decision from the FIA by September/October, he said they're good to go for 24.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. We had some conversations away from microphones with different folks in the paddock. I'll say knowledgeable and in-tune folks. And it's interesting just the perspective of, are you really questioning somebody that has sizable and successful teams in what is it, 7 different racing bodies around the world? Something silly. I mean, we're talking the supercars.
Oh, yeah,
we're talking. I mean,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere you look, and the money is in hand. But it's interesting to me when, so the new Concord agreement that came out, the past year or so, this was discussed and taken into consideration the finances around another team or more that might join. So honestly, it's already been set. And the idea was they were going to have to come in with $200 million just to ante up and get in the game, and poof, it's gone, for out of their pockets. But that actually would go into the other team's pockets. Well, I think they were all just fine with that. But you realize,
until the
oh,
Netflix
wait,
numbers came out.
Andretti? Yeah, the numbers went
Well,
up, and then
yeah.
Andretti was said.
I think it's more than I don't. I mean, I know they're taking Andretti seriously, and I saw some European journalists saying the same thing. Look, this is Andretti. This is the real deal. But I think that, and we talked about it at Miami. But I think the biggest thing is they now realize what these franchises are worth. And they didn't. When's the last time you ever heard the term franchises talked about Formula One teams? Never until now, when Netflix has skyrocketed the ratings. I mean, look, the rating, that's one thing we didn't talk about last week.
Yeah.
The ratings. There were 2.6 million people watching the Miami Grand Prix, and that's the most that have ever watched a live Formula One race. And in fact, I mean, the numbers now, that number, by the way, was beyond most IndyCar races, and was basically what an average NASCAR race is these days, or maybe even a little above average. So, I mean, the meteoric rise of Formula One in the United States right now is it's really stunning.
Well, and I think there's several things that come into play with that. But to be honest, if we look back at history of F1, I don't know that we've had a period where we had this many healthy teams that were affording the sport, and solidly on the grid. We don't hear a lot of budget talk right now about, oh, they're conserving parts or whatever. I mean, and not beyond just a basic strategy, but you don't hear them as in the tone of, we can't afford that to finish the season. And so I think that's a big, big difference right now is we've got a healthy grid.
Ah, healthy is the word across the board for Formula One right now. It is just, I mean, it's phenomenal. And Miami was, TB just texted in on YouTube, and he says, have you all recovered from Miami? Well, if you
We're trying, buddy.
Well, yeah, we have not. We said that at the very top of the show. We have not. I swear my whole week was out of whack because of what all we did. But it was just phenomenal being there and being on the ground. And you forget what a spectacle a NFL stadium is just all by itself. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Maybe Casey, the producer, can find that photo from Twitter last week where we were all sardined into the broadcast booth out there. Because what they had was they had the media center, which was luxurious and all the amenities you ever want as part of the stadium. But our broadcast booth was literally, I could sit in the booth, and I am a giant person, but I could touch both sides, all four square. It was basically a 6.5-foot square box. And we were jammed in there, and it was just amazing. But if you look out the back window, out the front window was the circuit, and we were
Pit in.
We were 20 feet from pit in, and another 40 feet from the circuit, the main circuit. And out the back window was the phenomenal Hard Rock Stadium from Miami. And you step out, and you just look up and up and up, and it was just amazing.
The coolest view, though, I mean, not only did you see the structure, there were people that were standing on multiple levels of the stadium. And so you saw all of this as you looked up into that. It was really, really a cool perspective to look up and see layers of people. I'm not going to say Monaco will ever compete with Miami or vice versa. I will say I did have kind of that visual sensation of when you're standing down at the harbor at Monaco and you look up the layers of that mountain or hill, that shore along the shoreline there. This kind of had that for me because you saw the first level stands, and then you saw the Paddock Club, which was on its own level out above the garage space. And then you started seeing layers of suites and people and the top deck. It was really cool. That was a stacked in crowd, and it was phenomenal. And I will say, overwhelmingly, it was an extremely positive experience from folks. I just had breakfast with some folks yesterday that quite a few of them were there, and they were like, absolutely, absolutely. There was one complaint that they brought up, and even then they said, I'm sure they'll get it fixed. But there was only one way to get to the top of the level of the stadium, and it was always seemed to be in the opposite corner of where you were. And so there was a lot of walking to get over there. It wasn't, they said, yes, it was a ramp. It was also those circular ramps. We've got them
for
in some of the
football
different
stadium.
places.
Yeah.
But it wasn't good for people in wheelchairs or the people having to push a wheelchair up that many circles to get to the top. Good note. Duly noted.
Yeah. And look, if you go to a Formula One race today and expect not to have to walk, it's just, the events are so massive and just so huge that you're going to have to do some walking. And yeah, I heard a little complaint or two. There was the little scare at the beginning about the surface of the track.
Right.
And, they actually had a little bit of the track come up, but that was not anything. All it was the machine that they used to scrub it with leaked some transmission fluid. And obviously those chemicals
softened it up.
Yeah, softened it up. Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was some complaints about the surface, but most of those were done by the end of the weekend, because I think it's just the natural way of when COTA was built, we had firsthand experience. We were literally out there looking at it. We were talking to the drivers here 10 years ago, and it was slick as ice. Well, this wasn't as slick. They were saying off track.
Yeah, off track. It was a little bit.
Yeah, off track. It was very slick because of the coarseness of the surface was throwing marbles. We sat down with Otmar Safner, and that's what he was telling us. He said, there's a lot of the tire marbles out there, and that's what made it slick off track. But if you recall, at the first part of the weekend, that long straight, that 4,000-foot straight at the back, was they were getting 201, 203 miles an hour.
Right.
And I think a lot of that was they weren't sure where the braking was. They were still adjusting downforce. But by the end of the weekend, we saw, I think, Checo Perez at 214 miles an hour. Man, it's a 4,000, 3/4 of a mile. I knew that when I heard 200, I was like, that doesn't seem right. Anyway, the point is the surface was better by the end of the weekend.
Absolutely. I had the opportunity for a passing conversation. It wasn't recorded, but it was Mario Sola, the motorsport director for Pirelli. And we've had him on the show before, but it was great catching up with him in person and just had a quick chat. And I just asked him how it's going. He goes, it's going good. The tires are meeting our expectation, and our guesstimate or analysis, they're right on point. It's very similar. They're very happy with it. The only areas that they were concerned with was the spot you talked about, where that got the fluid on it. It was coming up, and he goes, they've got a few patches like that. He goes, but those had not aged and weeped or had their vapors draft from it. So that was that. Also, he said, because the track is very new. We always call it green, but he said new. So much of the asphalt, when it gets wet, it's going to allow those chemicals to come to the surface. It'll be slick in that way. He said, so he was interested to see what was going to transpire during the race as far as the moisture. We were getting, brief rain showers and sprinkles.
Yeah, right
in
before the race.
So
we kept stepping out of the booth going, is this going to hold? But it's Miami.
Yeah,
so.
It's Miami. But so Mario was from Pirelli was very pleased with their analysis and how much work they'd put. Quite an exhaustive amount of work into it.
Yeah. All right, let's get a quick break in, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Charles Leclerc and his incident at Monaco today. You're listening to Speed City, live from Austin, back after these messages.
This is David Hobbs, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
It's a beautiful day here in Monte Carlo, and looking forward to a full day ahead of what should be some great racing. These boys are not messing about when it comes to racing here at Monaco. Yes, it is historic, but these guys have come to race, and that's what we expect and love about this particular form of racing.
That was our man Jonathan Green, who had the lucky job of commentating on the Monaco Historic racing out there in Monaco. And I looked at it. I watched a good bit this weekend, and there was a huge number of people watching that thing, almost like 1 million people.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're not familiar with this, so the Monaco Historic is like the Rolex Historics that we have at Laguna Seca here. It's kind of the legacy or the historic Formula One cars that come back, and they go through generations. And they pull them out, and like the Rolex Historics and the prehistorics out at Monterey, uh, they don't pitter patter around. They still run them pretty hard. Certainly not 100%. But I will say, a couple of them. I know a few of the drivers that because of things that are just technology improvements in the product that's being used, tires, brake pads, things like that, shocks and the abilities there. A lot of times these vehicles, even running at 90%, are faster than they were in their competitive day.
Some of them ran it beyond 100% today
Yeah, some of them went backwards.
because we have another clip that we're going to play. The internet went crazy when Charles Leclerc backed Niki Lauda's classic, iconic Formula One car into the wall. But if you listen to this clip, I think we found the source of the problem. If we have this clip from Jonathan Green. He's talking about Charles Leclerc right before the crash. Listen to this.
Charles Leclerc.
Did you hear Jonathan gushing about Charles Leclerc? What a great moment for him and his family. And then you hear the squealing of the tires. Oh,
It's the commentator's curse.
that was just.
I'm going to make sure Charles know it's Jonathan, not either one of us, next
Yeah.
time we speak. Yeah.
Jonathan was going to try to join us tonight, but of course it's 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever it is in Monaco.
Yeah.
He was going to try to give us some clips, but he texted me, he said, I'll call you when I get to the hotel, and I never heard back. I'm sure he's just exhausted. Yeah.
See, one more reason.
But that was just really sad. What year was Niki Lauda's car?
I don't remember which one that is.
Yeah, but
it's
that
the
was
Ferrari 312, but I don't remember what the year.
Yeah, that was, but that was really, woke up to that this morning. I was like, oh no, Jonathan. But yeah, it's such a fun thing to watch because you get to hear cars that you don't hear anymore. That was one of my favorite things about it, listening to the Formula One cars with internal combustion engines revving high and large displacements too. That was awesome.
Yeah, it really is something else. And my gosh, I know you've been to Monaco. Jonathan's been quite a few times. He's been doing the commentating for the Historic quite a while now. I was there a couple of years ago. And if you've followed Formula One forever, the historic aspect of Monaco cannot be ignored. And it's something else the way it's a street race and they open and close the track every evening and morning. And you actually get to walk across the track. You walk down the street. People are driving down the track, all that kind of thing. I know I was walking by and a couple of fans recognized Valtteri Bottas jogging that morning right in front of us. And he had, cap, sunglasses. He's kind of hunkered up, no branding or anything. And somebody picked him out and he stopped and just took some pictures. Then he took off running. But just an absolute phenomenal historic destination, even if it's not Grand Prix week.
Yeah, and if you want to go watch it, it's all on YouTube. I think Goodwood puts it out on their YouTube channel. They put it out live, and if they've got it all up there now. And I mean, it's hours and hours of coverage, but there's some good. Actually, there's some good comments if you just look at not by the channel, but just by listeners, watchers, viewers, where they put timestamps in there for you, so you can look at those and jump ahead. But I before we move away from this. We had a comment on YouTube. Mike Bowles said when he saw it, all he could think of was sad. And yes, it's sad. He said his luck's on par with Alonso's. But I do like what Charles Leclerc said about it. He tweeted out, he said, when you thought you'd already had all the bad luck in the world in Monaco, and then you lose the brakes into Rascasse with one of the most iconic historical Ferrari Formula One cars, and he upside down smiley face. So you kind of have to laugh. The car wasn't demolished. Let's make that clear. If you didn't
it's like
see
the
it,
rear wing.
yeah, the rear wing was the giant 4x8 sheet of plywood rear wing made out of aluminum.
That is an interesting. So many events have happened in Rascasse right there. That is the side that is closest to the harbor side that used to be the old pit and paddock space of the marina, and it's got a pretty tight bend in there. Kind of imagine a dog leg to the left into a hairpin that you loop around to the right and then exit. And Boy, you go in there without confidence in your brakes, you will wind up in trouble. I had the opportunity to stand up above that and watch that area for quite a while when I was there. And there's a lot of dive bombs in that space, but immediately you see them get in trouble. And obviously, with a failure such as this, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. But hey, let's shift gears and let's talk some IndyCar right now because it was a great race to watch, the GMR Grand Prix at the Indy Road Course, and Colton Herta looked fantastic all during that race, beginning and won the race and looked fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. What a great race all the way around. He pulled a great drifting maneuver.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. In fact, didn't find out till we got home that Colton was in Miami.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
so I swear they could have just about put on an IndyCar race because of all the IndyCar drivers we saw out there. I know, Grosjean, Ericsson, there were several others that were there. I mean, besides having Ganassi and Michael Andretti there. So
Well, yeah, the number of celebrities, we're used to walking through the paddock in Formula One in Austin, and you've been to a handful, and so have I, but this was at another level. You couldn't walk every step you took, there were celebrities everywhere. But back to IndyCar, Colton Herta had a great race, and that drift maneuver you pointed out,
Yeah.
we were talking about before we went on the air. I love that. I loved watching it in the car, looking at his hands, but also loved looking at the aerial shot of it. But you see his hands, and he has the wheels locked completely. For what seemed like about 5 seconds, it was probably only about a second or two. But then when he literally let go of the wheel, let it straighten the car out, and then grabbed it, it was so perfect. And then you watch it from the aerial view, and the car goes, he loses the back end, he corrects, holds it, goes around the corner, and when it's time to straighten out, that's when he lets go of the wheel and then grabs it. And when you watch it from above, it looked like a computer simulation perfectly aligned the car and ready to go. It was really amazing.
As I watched it, I'm sitting there, I could just tell and think through the things when we've gone through our slide training and car control training. I can just envision or think of how he is manipulating everything, and okay, not too much, a little bit of foot, a little off, a
Mhm.
little feather. No, I can just envision or imagine his processing of all that. And I was watching it as he does it and was like, oh man, that was beyond textbook.
Yeah, I just love the way the car went completely sideways, but it was perfectly lined up for the next corner. So all he had to do was straighten. I say all he had to do, but but he just let go of the wheel. I'm watching it again, and then it snaps in, and it was just amazing. But man, Colton, he he looks so good right now, and the timing is really good. He's talked very openly about how he wants to go to Formula One, and you think, do you want your IndyCar driver saying that? But I think he's not bigger than the sport level, but he's so hot right now, and he's doing so good that he can kind of get away with that.
I think he is. And, I think the players that are around him that have that opportunity get it. With certainly with Andretti being where they are now, they're preloaded with an F1 driver, an F1 quality driver in my book. But let's talk financially. Imagine what they would do if they went into F1 and they needed to get a driver off the current grid. I don't think they're going to get it for what they could get Colton for to step up into F1.
That's a good thought. Yeah, interesting. I think that's
And I
a
think-
reasonable
Yeah,
conclusion.
I think he can, get some money there, higher than what he's got with IndyCar. But I think it'll be a bargain for both of them.
Yeah, well, that race was really fun to watch because Alexander Rossi taking wet tires early. Guys, his luck. He hasn't had good luck either lately.
Yeah,
But I mean, with that rain and dry, it was really exciting to watch. And I mean, not that IndyCar always is, it seems like these days, but that really added to the element and made that a very entertaining race to watch.
yeah, it was great.
All right, well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we have our guest. And this is a young driver with a very interesting story and who's actually doing fantastic in the FR America's Formula 3 Series. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages.
This is Willie T. Ribbs, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, gearheads, welcome back to Speed City. Your Sunday night with Speed City. We talked a little Formula One in Miami, talked a little IndyCar. Now we're going to talk a little American racing because we have a young gentleman who's joining us who has a really fascinating story. I'm excited to tell it, and he's currently tied for the lead in the FR America's Formula 3 Championship here in the United States. We want to welcome to the show Dylan Tavella. Hey, Dylan.
How are all of you?
We are great, and fantastic to see you. I looked through our records, Dylan, and I saw that you've been on the show one time very briefly at COTA back in 2019, and I'd forgotten about that. So, but welcome back to Speed City.
How are you guys?
We're doing great. And
Yes.
I want to tell your story a little bit, and then I want you to correct me if I get it wrong or make any errors. But Dylan was growing up, and he had some challenges, ADHD, and he was kind of small growing up. And his parents put him near a go-kart, and he gravitated towards that and instantly and said basically something like, sat in that go-kart and said, "This is what I want to do for the rest of my life." And the rest, they say, as history, and he's come an amazing distance so far, and now he is leading the championship in FR America's Formula 3.
I find that fantastic. For one, yeah, you're mildly ADD. I'm majorly ADD. So I get it.
Squirrel.
And yeah. I want to ride a bicycle.
Yeah. We're making fun, Dylan, just because we are that way too. But congratulations on what you've done, because I know more than anything that it's been your perseverance to push you through that.
Yes.
And that's a big deal, because what you've accomplished right now, that's really exciting. So just give us a little overview of your career. You know, I know you started at karting at 4 years old, and talk about how you got to here.
Yeah, so I started when I was 4 years old. I was obsessively with cars when I was at a very young age, before 4 years old. All I did was play with cars. I didn't look at anything else other than cars and racing, and it was just always my thing. And I watched a lot of movies, a lot of what really got me into it, starting it, was watching Fast and the Furious when I was at the very beginning, because I just love cars. And then I came across Formula One with my dad, and I just fell in love with it. Like, I fell in love with everything about it, and I really wanted to get into it, and I didn't know how. And we were just going through the neighborhood, and we saw a go-kart, and I sat in it, and I told my dad, I'm like, "Dad, this is all I ever want to do." And then we ended up, we got my uncle's pickup truck, and we put the go-kart in the back of the bed, and we went to a parking lot for the first race, and it just took off from there.
Oh, that is so cool. I love it.
And that's awesome. And
Yeah.
your dad and your granddad used to get up and watch Formula One races, right?
My granddad passed away before I was born.
Okay.
So he wasn't. Yeah, so it was just me and him mostly.
Yeah. Well, so you've been a big fan for a long time, and so the way that Formula One has now exploded in the last year or so, last couple of years with Netflix and everything, are you getting a lot of people that are kind of waking up to what you do because of that?
Yeah, a lot of more people, since they watch Netflix, they got more intrigued on what I do, because I do post a lot on social media, and it caught a lot of people's attention, and I constantly get questions about it and stuff now, and asking like, when are the next races and stuff, and where can I watch it and all this stuff, and I promote all of it.
Mm. Well, let's talk about your FR Americas right now, because I know last year you had a tough year, but you had you had engine troubles all the way. I mean, how many races did you miss because of engine troubles last year?
I would say it's around 12.
Wow. Huh. Well, hopefully this year you've got, you like you say, you're tied for the lead, and you can take advantage of having that problem solved, and see if you can win this championship. I mean, let's talk about that for just a second. What would that mean for you, your family, and everything to win that if you could do that?
I mean, yeah, these past couple of years have been really tough on me. Just I would say it's more just bad luck on our side. And thankfully this year we were able to turn it around and have a good start with the season, and hopefully we can keep going from there.
Mm.
And if we do good in the championship, we would have a lot. It would be good funding money for racing to go overseas and really prove myself.
Yeah. So what would you do? What we have specific European goals, you said?
Yeah, I wanna go in FIA F3 and see how that goes, and hopefully I can really prove myself there and really make a name for myself.
Dylan, so, there's often some confusion about the FR and the F3. Can you tell folks what the difference is?
So yeah, FR and F3, it is the same thing. So basically in different regions. So let's say there's FR Asia, so that's nationals in Asia, and then it's the same for FR America. So it's just their region of the championship, and then the global, I would say the global one that's with the Formula One and Formula Two is FIA F3. So it's like a next step from FR.
Well, and that's a good segue too, because you talk about your goal would be FIA Formula 3, which is of course
Yes.
the big boy F3, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we had Jack
Yes.
Crawford on last, I guess 2 weeks ago, and you and I chatted just briefly yesterday, and in 2017 you beat Jack Crawford, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. So, and that's so motor racing, isn't it? It's like there's so many
Yes.
factors to being successful, whether it's money, which we all know helps in motor racing, but
Yes.
you have some luck. We talked about Charles Leclerc's bad luck today.
Yeah.
But you had last year, you had a bunch of bad luck, and you've clearly got the skills because you're with a great team. That Kiwi Crosslink team, they don't just take anybody, and you're with a great team.
Mhm.
But if you could make it to FIA Formula 3, and you know what? Thinking about this, Dylan, you don't necessarily have to win the championship to get to FIA Formula 3, right?
I mean, it'd be really good if I did. I mean, it would really make a name for me and recognition. So, and it would also help with the check that we get at the end of the year for the funding for it. I mean, if uh if I didn't win the championship, it'd be really, really tough for me to get over there and really prove myself, even though I couldn't even prove myself here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I know that's a big deal. I mean, I was just thinking it's funny. We were talking to Jack, we were talking about his next goal, of course, Formula 2, and we said the same thing. You don't necessarily have to win at the level. You don't have to win the championship, but it just greases the skids, and obviously that would be fantastic. But
Yes.
but let me ask you this: are there any other goals? So, for example, let's say you came in second and you didn't end up going to FIA Formula 3. Do you have other goals, maybe where you could just become a sports car driver, or any other goals?
Yeah, I mean, any opportunities I would get would be great. I mean, I'm always open to anything on the table. It's yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, and you and I talked a little bit about the kind of regimen that drivers go through, and you're young and you were in school while you were racing in in karting and F4, but you and I talked about what do you have, like you consume like 5,000 calories a day, go to the gym twice a day, that kind of regimen.
Yeah, I really watched on what I eat. I don't eat anything that's really bad for you. I try to stay really lean. I go on the sim in the morning, so I go for 2 hours before work because my sim's at my work. And then so I go on the sim and then I work for my team owner after. So that's about 10 hours already. And then after that I go to the gym and then I just eat throughout the whole day. So I'll probably eat about 5 6 meals a day. And I will go to the gym on top of it, and then I repeat the same thing every day, 6 days a week. So yeah.
Awesome. And you know what? I was just looking at my notes. We touched on F2. You did a little testing in F2, didn't you?
Oh no, that wasn't me. That was the other competitor in the series that I'm in.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you were telling me you had done some
Yeah.
testing, but Hey, Les, I want you to ask this young man some current Formula One questions because he is a huge, he's a huge F1 fan. And who are your favorite drivers right now?
I would probably say Russell and Leclerc.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay,
I
okay.
I really I really I really like Russell because he does have heart in the sport. I mean, he really does show that he does have heart because when he achieves something, he really does get emotional about it. And the same thing as Leclerc, because Leclerc, he had a lot of things happen to him in the past, and it really made him push to where he is now.
And what about where George Russell is in the team right now? I mean, if you look at the numbers, we may have a new, let me ask you, do we have a new number one driver at Mercedes?
I mean, as it currently stands in this season, yes, we do.
All right. Well,
I
we'll
mean,
tell you.
he really did prove himself in that car. He really showed that no matter what circumstances the car is in, he's always going to try and as hard as he can. And I think he's going to be a number one driver one day.
All right. Well, I'll have you know, Jacques Villeneuve agrees with you. He
Oh,
mentioned
thank you.
this week. Yeah, so you're in good company, at least outspoken company.
Thank you.
But yeah, Jacques basically was stating, how much longer till Mercedes admits Hamilton is not number one on their team now, and that's a tough thing to deal with.
I really think the reason why Hamilton is struggling this season because think of it, he's been on top almost 7 years in a row, or eight years in a row technically, and basically his ego just got washed away this season. It's hard to stay on top and be that confident because you need confidence in that car, and I can really see where he's coming from on that. And it's really hard to overcome and come back on top of that again.
You think it's too late for him to show well this season?
He could definitely step up his game and come back on. I wouldn't say on top. It would be really, really close, just on a number standpoint. But I think he can come back and prove himself.
Do you think he can catch Max?
Oh, well, the rivalry between them.
Exactly.
Basically anything could happen.
I love the contrast of the top two teams this year versus last year. It's like you could almost see them waving while they're racing. Hey, buddy, we'll see you between Max and Leclerc versus the middle finger from last year between Max and Lewis. And it's fascinating. Hasn't it been fun to watch, Dylan?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've been keeping up to every race, every practice, every press, anything because it's just so suspenseful now.
Well, Dylan, I really wanted to get you on because with what you said about what you overcame, and your ADHD and being told by the schools and people around you that, I mean, they even told you at one point that it was irresponsible to have you in a cart, didn't they?
Yes.
I mean,
and they told me I wouldn't even be able to live on my own. And I wouldn't be able to do anything on my own. I needed full aid care and everything. And I just said that's completely wrong. Because obviously they're not in my shoes and they don't see what I see.
I'm not joking. I am severely ADD myself. And so I relate school was difficult for me. I was that B- at best student, and quite often it was the other minus further down below. And so, I get it. And what I am just starstruck over is, for one, you wound up in motorsports. That's way cool.
Yeah.
But that you're proving the success, is there for somebody, you and I don't fit the normal for a lot of folks in education world. And I love it. Kudos. High five over there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very common in people. I mean, I know a lot of people that have ADD, ADHD, and it could be from mild to severe, and it's just different in every person. But I know a lot of people that do have it.
And you and I talked, and we talked about how one of the one of the things with ADD and ADHD is you can have a focus. You can be almost hyper focused on things, and that's what you've done and turned that into a drive to get to where you are, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I get in that car, just everything phases out. Everything just phases out, and I'm fully concentrated on that. And it's almost like an instinct because I'm so like because of the hyper focus. And so, like, there's stuff I do in the car, and like I'll watch on the GoPro. I won't even realize that I did it, and it's because it's just a complete instinct.
Well, Dylan, Tavella, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm really excited to have you, and we're going to be watching you. Go ahead, Les. What do you got?
Are you coming to Coda? You have any visits
Yes, of
planned?
course.
When?
Yeah, well, they got the race here.
That's right. You will be
Yeah,
here
yeah,
as a
yeah.
supporting race. So absolutely. All righty, folks.
Yeah, I actually currently live in Dallas right now because I'm going to college here.
Which one?
And also, I just graduated at a UTI, and I'm going for Mercedes Tech.
Congrats.
Awesome.
Thank
well,
you.
Dylan, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and the best of luck. And we'll get you back on, and we'll be following you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right. Talk
Take
to you
care, Dylan.
soon.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
I love it.
All right. We're going to go to a quick break. You listen to your Sunday night with Speed City. Back after these messages.
Hi, Brendan Hartley. This is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. I'm going to look at a couple of comments on YouTube. We're going to talk some Formula One, some more Formula One, and we're going to talk a little MotoGP because they were at the French Grand Prix. That was an interesting race. But someone mentioned, forgot who it was, about McLaren joining Formula E and our thoughts on that.
At least it wasn't a dental drill.
Oh, I thought that was a dental drill. Sorry.
Kind of sounds it. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. I liked one thing about it. It means that the McLaren team is healthy, right? They're going into another series.
Right.
And I really like Zach Brown.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite execs in motorsports right now. I love his attitude towards the Andretti. He's been, the very first time that right after Michael Andretti said, all right, I can't go to Formula One this way through Sauber. I'm going to do my own thing. And then immediately we got the Toto Wolff and Christian Horner both saying, oh, I don't know if this is a good idea. I just remember coming on, just reacting from instinct going, that's just ridiculous because we knew that Andretti was going to bring $1 zillion from American sponsors. And I mean, if you go to a sponsor and you go, I want you to sponsor the Haas F1 team, and hey, let me get you on the phone with Gunther Steiner, and especially pre-Netflix. But if you're the head of Oracle, you're going, who's Gunther Steiner? But if you get a phone call and they say Michael Andretti
Yeah.
or Michael
Andretti.
and Mario's involved, Mario and Michael are on the phone and they want to talk to you, you're going to pick up the phone.
Click.
No matter how big a company, whatever, you're going to take that call. And I just remember reacting, going, "This is absurd. This is ridiculous." And so I know we're talking McLaren Formula E, but because Zach Brown has been defending that, basically saying the same thing that I'm saying, maybe a little less vehemently because he's in the middle of the sport. But as far as McLaren joining Formula E, we've had the exodus of some of the other teams in there, and honestly, we follow a lot of motorsports, and I kind of run out of time and don't follow Formula E as much as I should.
All right. So just now you mentioned Mario Andretti, you mentioned McLaren, but let's put those two together right now. It's just announced this week that Mario Andretti is going to drive a McLaren F1 car ahead of the USGP.
That's cool.
So yeah, let's hope he doesn't back it into a wall. But let's go with that. I think that'll be fun.
Don't even say that. You just jinxed him.
Oh, come on. I'm not commentating. We'll blame that on Jonathan. But yeah, no. So he's looking at doing that here, and that's as a combination. The other name you mentioned, Zach Brown, is making that happen. So
No, that's
excited
cool.
to see that. I just love those little things that happen around and before races like this. It's just kind of adds in an extra fun element to the weekend.
Well, speaking of that exact kind of thing, you've got in your show notes about the Rahals and how they would talking about Vettel. That's interesting too.
Yeah, so Vettel, just loves driving and getting in different things. Well, so the Ray Hall, father and son team there have invited Sebastian Vettel to come take out an IndyCar at Road America. And so I'm thinking that's a fun tease. That's going to be another one of those fun events, added extra for the race weekend. But honestly, I could see Vettel coming in and being a guest driver occasionally, or, my gosh, he's done the champions,
Race of Champions.
Stuff, and he's always great at everything he does. I want to see him do that. And I want to see him come and race in the Century motorcycle event, which is for classic motorcycles over 100 years old. He
That's
is a
cool.
huge motorcycle collector.
That's very cool. Nicely done, Mr. Kaiser. Let's
Very
talk
good.
MotoGP.
MotoGP. Well, it's the end of an era.
End of an era?
End of an era, too. All righty. There you go. There you go. Thanks. Well, so Valentino Rossi's number is being retired.
Yeah.
And so
that didn't take long.
No. I think we all knew that was going to happen. And so, it's one of those things I kind of wish it wasn't, but then, and I'm kind of okay with it too.
Well, why? Why are you wish that they weren't?
Because that honestly means he couldn't even use it on his own team.
Okay.
For instance,
yeah.
things like that. So, but then I don't know. Maybe we could get some kind of guarded status in some way.
Hey, it's Valentino Rossi. He could unretire it if he wanted to, probably.
Coming back, but only if I get my own number.
Or even for his, a young rider on his team or something. But it's Valentino. He could do whatever he wants. But the French Grand Prix was very fun to watch, and it was Enea Bastianini with his third win of the season. So, but there was good racing.
Oh my gosh,
there were several. Yeah,
Rins took a wild ride.
That was a big crash, and he went off over the. He basically lost control, so he was upright, but he was upright through that corner, and was still over 300 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
I mean, he was approaching 200 miles an hour, skipping across the gravel.
Yeah, and just kept on going. He kept on breaking it down, trying to scrub off some speed. Well, you couldn't really change direction, so luckily he had a long runoff. But the unfortunate part of the design was he crossed the track about 2 turns up from where he exited the track, right in front of the oncoming stampede. Nearly got hit by them because he got tossed off right in front of him.
Man, did you see his helmet hit when he got tossed off?
Yeah, he got slammed.
Man, it's the right side of his helmet.
He did get up, seemed to be.
Well, he joined the race.
Okay. That's right. He did get back in.
I don't know how he did that, but he got back in the race.
I was amazed the bike could do it.
Yep.
But all of that was just spectacular fashion. Thankfully, like I said, he did all right.
The home riders, let's see, there was Fabio Quartararo and Zarco. They were 4th and 5th, so we had 2 Frenchmen in the top 5. That was good. But did you see, I think it was 3 laps to go, Miguel Oliveira, he went down at turn 4, and his bike went spinning, just like you said before. It went spinning across the track, totally in front of bikes. In fact, Paulo Espargaro almost hit that bike, and that would have been a disaster. But that was a crazy looking. I mean, we talk about Formula One and, especially Netflix and the drama of it. And we saw the amazing, crazy fire with Romain Grosjean. But in MotoGP, these guys put their life on the line every weekend. And you saw those too. But
going back, gosh, we keep crisscrossing our names back and forth. Niki Lauda is one of the ones that said that MotoGP he thought was more exciting than any other racing in the world because you actually see what the driver is doing nowadays. That by now the F1 and the IndyCar drivers are all wrapped up. You don't really see what they're up to.
Yeah, you see them using their bodies so dramatically. Like Dylan was saying, our guest earlier when he was talking about being in shape, and let's not take anything away from MotoGP. I mean, from a Formula One or IndyCar or any really high-level motorsports, because those guys, they're in massive shape. What is Formula One up to 6 Gs laterally now? The neck exercises. I mean, you saw Kevin Magnussen come back in, and he said, I can't hold my head up. You know, and
Right.
he was still doing lots of sports car racing, but Formula One is at such a high level. Well, gentlemen and ladies, we are out of time. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and thanks to everybody who tuned in on YouTube and Facebook and all the others. And of course, people ask how they can listen, and we have our podcast. Every show we do turns into a podcast, and you can catch them all on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google, all those. And you can find all that at our website. And of course, during the week, we have put out lots of content on social media. And of course, next weekend, we'll be back at our Formula One broadcast doing the pre and post with Jonathan Green and Bob Varsha. And
Who knows who?
And yeah, who knows else. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next Sunday.
Ciao, y'all.